Hello everyone, welcome to episode 3 of the Game Dev Talks. Today I wanted to go over get it right, then get it tight. And this is something that a lot of devs struggle with. Actually, I would say all or the vast majority of devs struggle with. It is very tempting to want to only make one pass at your code, rather than to first write the basic code, make it work, and then go back through it at least one more time. Make sure you got the right kind of comments, and change out inefficient structures for more efficient ones. So for like a sorting method, instead of doing a double for loop, you'd use either merge or quick sort, depending on whether you're using arrays or lists. Just so you guys know which one: quick sort for arrays, merge sort for lists. But anyway, that's minor. But doing that is a good thing, and trying to do it all at once is super inefficient. It's actually faster to take 2 or more passes than to try to do a... Well, I don't want to use the word perfect because there's no such thing as perfect code, but to try to make, the very best pass you can at your code the first try. It's hard to explain, but so for instance, if you write super simple code, like you'll find in the tutorials. All the tutorials are super simple code, right? I don't do complex things in general, although I did give you a decent set of loops to get code out of an XML file in the most recent tutorial, tutorial 40. But that's not perfect code either. That's just code, right? That's just decent code. That wasn't my first pass at that code. Right, my first pass of that code would have been much more simple, and then I kept adding to it to make it better and better and better. And you know what? I'm going to do some video editing. I wasn't going to do this, but I will point out in that code how I went through it. So I will do that for this video. So we'll see if we can get some production quality going on. Alright, so I kind of went over this last time in the tutorial, so you can see a version of what I'm going to talk about there. So let's just make some space. This is our code, and it's going to loop through some data we read in from an XML file, from the options XML file, and then and that happens up here. So there's that, and then we go into here. So go to definition, and we're here. Okay. So we're going to process that data, and we're going to process it into the different structures that that we use to load or to set our options. So they're little arrow selectors. So this is kind of the more complete code. I'm sure there's things you can do to improve it. I'm not saying it's perfect, but if we were to start with some piece of code here, we would probably start and this is maybe even higher than you'd start with, but this essentially reads in the code, and this processes it into the selectors. So this is the selector that we are currently processing into. So one of those is full screen. In fact, you can see these things, they are right here: full screen, music volume, and sound effects volume, right? So one of those is full screen. So if we had this, we would be able to load in the one. Actually, not even this. Sorry, we don't need this for loop. This is our simple base piece of code, right? We're testing to make sure that this piece of code works, and that this will get the full screen data and load it into the arrow selector. Okay? If you don't understand the code, I get it. I explain it better in the tutorial, but I wanted to go over how to, make your code increasingly become more complex. Okay, so the next step would be to add a loop to loop in all of these things, right? So then we would take this for loop that I had on there a second ago. When we wrap that here, and then of course my stuff is all wonky because I don't have that list. So we would also create this list, right? And then in here we would say all options dot add, and then we would add those three things. One of them's full screen, and then we take this and we make two more. Oops. Copy that. Okay. And then we grab this one, put it in here. This one, put it in here. Now we know for a fact right now, if there is a bug, which there is one, it is in our new code, right? It is in our code or where our new code should be implemented. So right now, the bug is in where our new code should be implemented. So there, put that back, take that, and replace this. So that is our new code, right? If there's a bug in here, it's in the new code. Because we already tested our other code. We didn't actually test it on this video, but we've already tested our new code. Our old code, I mean. And so we only have the new code. So the bug would be here, 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 or here. I guess technically we're there. But it wouldn't run without that. Your compiler wouldn't let that through. Okay, so now we test that. That goes through. Cool. Well, we don't need to load those for just those three. What if we have 10 arrow selectors? Well, now we have this piece of code here that loads all of them, right? Now we test this, and if there's a problem, it's in here, right? So each step, we gained more and more complexity to the point where we always knew where the bug might occur. We weren't searching, 25 lines of code at a time. We were searching 10 lines of code, and then another 10 or so lines of code, and then just 3 or 4 lines of code, you see? So that is what I mean by taking multiple passes at a problem. Get it right, then get it tight. All right, now that we covered that, you know, when you're designing your code, design it such that you understand a simple way to do it, and you understand the final way that you want it. So let's go back to like a sorting algorithm, right? So first I'm going to use a simple like big O squared, n squared sorting method. So either a double for or some kind of moving things left and right, but not cutting it into pieces and dealing with it in halves, which is what quick and merge sort do, which is why it's big O log in. We'll log in to insert and big O log in to search. Whereas simple ones are n squared for both. So if you're wondering why some things can search or sort so quickly, it's because they're using those other sort methods. But you find an easy one to deal with, and you do your code that way. And then when it's all working and it's everything, you're happy with all of the way your new system or new, draw method or your new whatever it is that you're putting in, you're happy with it and it's good, then you can come through and say, okay, do I need to spend the time putting in merge or quick sort? Is it simple to do so? Sometimes it's just a simple sort and you can do it in like a few lines of code and it's worth doing. Other times you need a custom quick and a custom merge sort. For now, I'm probably just going to say one of the two. I'm not going to keep saying both. But and then that can take quite a long time to put in. So is it worth it? Is there only going to be 10 things in this array at any time? If so, probably not even worth doing a quick or merge sort. If there's going to be 1,000 things in there, okay. Now we have, some serious value to do so. Because if you do the math on big O n squared, of 1,000, you're doing 1,000 times 1,000. That's a million conditionals. That's a lot. Whereas in times log in, oh boy. I'm going to do math without having a calculator for logs. That's no good, but I'm pretty sure that log in of 1,000 is 10? Something like that. Something to that nature. Don't quote me. I'll probably just say what it is up here. So that's the sort, and then that's the search, and the sort is that times in, so times 1,000, so it'd be 10,000 instead of 1,000,000. And then again, I'll say what that is. Or if not, I'll put in the description if I forget. But you get a huge value out of going back and making that second pass. But if you try to do it all at once, you won't know whether your bug is in some other piece of the code, or maybe it's in the loop, or maybe it's something else. So if you keep it all simple, it's easy to read, easy to debug. So much easier to debug simple code, much more difficult to debug more complex code. So first make it work, then evaluate what else needs to happen. Because maybe nothing needs to happen. Maybe that not so awesome code just needs to have some comments put in and you're good. Because it's such a minor, minuscule task that it's not going to affect the way your program runs. And that is kind of blasphemy for what you're going to hear in computer science classes. And I'm not trying to tell you be a bad programmer, right? What I'm telling you is be an efficient programmer. You only have X number of minutes, hours, days, years, whatever it is of programming that you can do on any one given job. So you need to make the very, very most out of each individual time period. So you sit down and you say, I got 2 hours to write some code. Well, if I can write 3 new systems in 2 hours with simple code, and I can only write half of a system in 2 hours of complex code, obviously the simple code is the better choice, at least initially, right? You can always come back and deal with it. You can always make it better, right? You start catching lag in your games, great. You need to make yourself a pass of polish and a efficiency pass. You're just gonna have to do it. Okay, no big deal. Oh, that thing that probably should have been in a thread. I didn't put in a thread. Maybe I should go put that in a thread. Crap! I just put in a race condition. Right now, I'm getting weird bugs showing up. Well, if I tried to do that all at once, I wouldn't know whether my bug is the fact that I put in the thread or if it's my code in the first place that's wrong. Right? So you have these issues. Like trying to debug a race condition is no fun. It's horrible. It's one of the hardest things to debug in my book. So if you're not sure whether your loops are running right or whether you're in a race condition, that's bad. And you're looking all over the place and you're not quite sure, and then you kind of glance over your code. You're like, no, it looks good, so it must be over here. But it actually was over there because you didn't debug it hard enough. Because you just thought maybe it was okay. And instead you're thinking, no, I've got a race condition going on. That's what's wrong. And instead my sort's wrong. And so, you see, like, the more complex, the more variables there are, literally, the more difficult it becomes to debug your code. So keep your variables small, which means simple code. And then when the process is working, then move over to more complex code if you need to. If you don't need to, you probably shouldn't. Again, that's like blasphemy in computer science. But that's what I'm telling you. From 15 years in the field, you will be happier, and you'll get more done. You'll be more productive. And if you're not working in game deving and you have a client somewhere, that client's going to almost always be much happier that everything gets done faster, as opposed to getting done much slower. And then you try to explain to him how awesome this piece of code you wrote in is. All he cares about is that he or she cares is that you got it done fast and timely, and so they have that piece of code. So get it right, get it tight is key. Okay. Let's see. There's also different kind of code passes to make it better, right? So better is subjective. You could be talking about your code being cleaner. You could be talking about better comments. You could be talking about more efficient code. You could be talking about easier to read code. You could be talking about any number of things that make your code better. So keep that in mind. Code passes don't always have to be for efficiency. Sometimes they have to be so that other people can read your code. For instance, when I've had people that I've worked with, there would be a standard code the way the code looked, and you can see my standard in the tutorials. That's how I write code. I've been told that it's too simple. It's not elegant enough. Well, I don't care. It's easy to read, and I find easy to read, and I've said this in the tutorials, to be the very, 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 very most important thing about a piece of code. So keep that in mind as well. Yeah, I mean, I guess that for the most part explains get it right or get it right. If you have any questions, ask in the comments. I will be happy to answer them. If you like the video, make sure you hit like. If you made it this far, maybe you want to subscribe. Might be worth it. If you do subscribe, consider ringing the bell so you get notified when different videos are uploaded. Right now it's Tuesdays for these and Fridays for tutorials. Speaking of which, we got out the 40th tutorial. It has the solution included in it to catch anybody up that's new. That way you can join with us and go through all this crazy stuff together. Yeah. Oh, Discord. I've been sick for a while, so I apologize not being on Discord quite as much as I want to. But I have tried to keep up with everything. When people are asking questions, at some point I'm getting on there and I am answering them. So consider jumping on the Discord. And yeah. All right, guys. I will see you guys next time.